members of council, and Mr. Mayor. My name is Ed Polinsky. I live at 4198 Glendenning. I'll just give you a little bit of history first. In 1878, Adam Glendenning, one of the first farmers in what is now known, oops, come on back boys, what is now known as the Blenkinsop Valley, purchased 700 acres of property. The western boundary was Lost Lake, which is now Blenkinsop Lake. The eastern boundary was Mount Douglas Park. On very early maps, the property was known as Ward 51. Glendenning Road is the eastern boundary of Ward 51 and what used to be the Glendenning Farm. Over the almost half century we have lived on Glendenning Road, we have witnessed many changes in Saanich, but thankfully very little on our road. Transition has started, new homes have started to replace older ones, but that's fine because it doesn't change the integrity of the neighborhood. The bridle path on the west side of the road was always maintained as such. However, now most of the path at the north end of the road has become overflow parking. We as residents have always accepted the parking situation. It wasn't always easy, but we have accepted it. As a resident, I feel deeply saddened by the few people that are showing a complete lack of respect for the residents of Glendenning Road and for the park users that obey the no parking signs and go and park elsewhere. Every day there are more people that travel Glendenning on foot or bicycle than in cars. Glendenning Road is our neighborhood. It was not planned by a developer. It has evolved that way nature intended it to. I, like many others, want a permanent solution to this problem. If more space can be opened up for a few more cars, that's fine. I don't want Winchester to become a through road. That will change the integrity of both Glendenning and Parkside neighborhood. I ask that the bridle path be restored and a definite separation between the road and the bridle path. There are many dead-end roads in Saanich and Victoria that lead to beach accesses and parks. I hope they don't have to go through what Glendenning Road is going through, just because some people demand more parking. The saddest part of this whole thing is we're all nice people here, and we should all be getting along, and we're being tarred with a brush that we do not deserve. We are not rich people. We are lucky because we've lived on Glendenning a long time. We've been there almost half a century. But that's just the way it is. If you want to come over for tea, have a walk in the garden.
Ed, that's very nice. Dress council, you can do those kind of offerings after the meeting.
Anybody. Well, what we do is we have a very nice garden. We open it up to tours. We've been on the Water Garden Tour for the Love of Africa and then the Mother's Day Tour. We have had thousands of people through our garden. We can't do that now because of the no parking signs. We are very fortunate that we have a neighbor, and in the summer she allows us to use her, Joan Johns, her vacant lot for parking. But other than that, it's too bad. Anyway, my heart goes out to all you folks. I could not do the job that you're doing, and I thank you for it.
Thank you, Ed. I'd like to invite the next speaker, please.
Good evening, hello. Mayor Atwell and councillors, my family has been living on Glendenning Road now for 48 years.
And before we get into the story, we need your name and address, please.
Jack McClellan, 4199 Glendenning Road. Okay, we've been living on Glendenning for 48 years. We initially selected Glendenning for its unique character. That is the old growth timber and narrow winding road. It is a hiker's and biker's paradise, with more using it all the time. Being a retired forester from the Forest Inventory branch of the BC Forest Service, I was inspired 10 years ago to complete an inventory of all major trees growing on the Glendenning Street right-of-way. A total of 203 trees were inventoried and mapped. 2 detailed maps were produced with assistance from Saanich Parks. And they did a marvelous job. I admit that the road is a bit narrow at times for passenger cars, but I can't ever recall an accident. Largely, I suspect, because cars are forced to slow down. The only significant issue, at times, is the lack of parking near the entrance to the park. And rightly or wrongly, this can partly be resolved by parking on Winchester. I know there's a concern about that, and or other access points. In summary, I am totally opposed to cutting any trees on Glendenning. Leave the current road and its unique character untouched. Consider classifying Glendenning Road as a heritage road. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack, and I'd like to invite the next speaker.
Hi, my name is Susan Noel. I live at 1415 Allison Road. I'm a former resident of Glendenning. I grew up there. It's the greatest road I've ever lived on in my whole life, and I've lived on a lot of streets. I drive up to Mount Doug Park a lot because I have an elderly dog, but I have actually been making concessions since the parking ban because I agree with it. I think some of the other roads could be opened up. I've been getting rides and getting dropped off so that I can still go for my daily walks. I do find driving up there is helpful sometimes. I'm a registered nurse. I cycle to work. I work 12-hour shifts. I've been a nurse for 29 years, and I still take my dogs for a walk after I've finished working. So it's a benefit for me to be able to go up to the park and drive up there. Of course, when I finish work, there's usually no traffic there, so it's not a problem. But I think they could open up a couple more spots at the top of Glendenning, and I think they could find some other roads that they could use for people to park on. Maybe along Blenkinsop, there might be some side roads there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to invite our next speaker, please.
My name is David Cochey. I live at 4180 Bracken. When the signs went on originally, I got a ticket. After 3 hours of working in the park as an invasive species volunteer. So that kind of prompted me a little bit, but then I was concerned about the process and the sudden showing of these signs without any formal notice or anything like that. So very quickly I come up with kind of 2 objectives. And the first was to kind of expand the conversation, bring more people into the discussion about what had been going on in that area. And I think that that's turned out very well. There's a lot more people talking about the issue now than there was 2 months ago or 3 months ago. And the second objective was just to bring it to council's attention, because I think that that's where it should have come through in the first place. If we'd had talked about it 3 months ago, maybe we wouldn't be talking about it today. So anyways, I think that those two objectives are finished tonight. I've accomplished my objectives. So there's a campaign that has gone on for the last couple of months, and there's a lot of people been working on the background. And I'd just like to take, I'm not going to talk about the vote tonight. There's many passionate people here, and I think I've sent you far more emails than you ever wanted. So I'm just going to thank in front of you the few people that have worked behind the scenes to bring this to your attention. And the first person I would like to thank is Joe, my stalwart companion, who is the first ever campaign and has worked very, very hard to do the things that I've asked and some of the things that I haven't asked. And I'd really like to thank her tonight. And there's another group, Marilyn and Loretta and Peter and Sandy and Barrett, that have really kind of been my core supporters, and they've kind of come to the information sessions and they've sent letters when they've asked, and they've really, really been great people. These are great people. And there's been a kind of a background, in the background there's another of my internet friends, and they communicate back and forth with me and give me ideas and things like that. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank them tonight too. They've been a great support in keeping me going. And then I'd just like to thank all of the people that have written in. You read in the newspapers and some submissions to council from people that I hadn't communicated with before. So it's expanded the conversation to those people too, and I want to thank them for taking a part in this discussion, because that was the original point. And outside of that, there's I'd like to particularly thank Councillor Plan for taking an early interest and an ongoing interest in this, in trying to arrive at some kind of a decision that's satisfactory to all of the people. And also Councillor Haynes and Mayor Atwell have come out to the park to talk to the people and have toured the park on their own time to see what the issues are. And I really appreciate that our council has been so active, that those members of our council have been so active to understand the situation more. And then I just want to, oddly enough, would like to thank the media. I'd like to thank Saanich News and the Times Colonist for their commentary on the situation. It's been a very difficult campaign. The park users are obviously spread much more widely, and it's very, very difficult for us to contact them. And it's been a way for us to reach out to a broader group of people than we otherwise would. So that's been kind of very, very nice too. So I think those are the kind of people I'd like to thank. I may have missed somebody, but I apologize. And I appreciate what everybody's put into this. And I really appreciate now that I can sit back and I can leave it in the capable hands of council, and that I don't know where this is going to go, but I really feel that it's kind of on a track that I feel comfortable with now, that the people that are looking at the issue, that should be looking at the issue, and good night.
Thank you, David. I'd like to invite the next speaker, please. Call in a second time for the next speaker, please. Welcome.
Mehdi Najari, I live in 1005 Leeds Place. I don't live anywhere close to this Glendenning Road because I see mostly neighborhood people are talking and as if it's not in my backyard. I've been several times in the road, and every time I go it's just bring happiness, the way the road is. We don't need those type of progress that make every road like every other road. We need roads like Glendenning to be preserved as a heritage road, as some gentleman suggested, for all of us. Please do not change the character of the road. Please do not add more parking spots. Make those that are available for people with disability, the time that is required, but please don't change it. Help, if you are going to make any decision, make decision on the basis of preserving the road and improving its character, not to change it. I don't live around there, please, but as a Saanich resident, I think we should have those roads around. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call the next speaker. A second invitation for the next speaker. Calling the third time for the next speaker. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Finlayson. I live at 3935 Winton Street. I am one of the users of the Glendenning Parkway. I am a retired nurse. My husband's a retired firefighter. We walk, either myself or my husband, daily with our 3 dogs and plus or minus a grandchild. Sorry, my heart is beating right now. I think what I'm upset about is I've worked all my life. I've gotten up early every morning and still now in retirement to assure a parking space so I am not having to search around the neighborhood for a parking space with my dogs and my grandchild in tow. I have to be at the park by 8 o'clock some mornings, usually on the weekend. This weekend, Saturday, I was there at 8:15. I was the only car in the parking lot. When I finished my walk at 9, it was full again. Today, I had a grandchild that I had to get to preschool back and forth, so I do go on different times, and I count my blessings when I see a car coming down the street, because I know I'm in a time crunch. I want to get my dogs exercised. I have to pick up my grandchild, and it's just that the signs went up the 24th of June, and just end of October, finally a sign has been put up at the end of the street saying where additional parking is. Well, that additional parking, where they say down by the water and the other park, it's not a 2-minute drive, and it's not a convenience. I'm there for exercise for my dogs and myself and my grandchild. I do exercise 5 days a week. I can walk from the end of Mount Duck and up, but my dog can't. And hopefully, my oldest dog is going to be 14. He can still maneuver the tracks. I hope when I'm at that age, my kids already think I'm like that I won't be stuck at home or told I could just sit in my backyard and walk in a circle and think that's okay. I know I'm sort of rambling, but I'm a little bit upset over the whole situation. I see these faces every day on my walk. I did suggest to the one lady who spoke, who has her 2 dogs, Sparky and Thunder, that when the signs went up, instead of her children setting up a lemonade stand along their long driveway, they could sell 1-hour parking spots. And I still think that's a good idea. I'd be willing to pay for my 1-hour parking and be assured that I have a parking space. Nothing is worse to get dogs in a car and a preschool grandchild to drive up the street and to find that you cannot park. It's not an easy thing. And I don't live in Gordon Head. I back onto Reynolds Park. I could open my gate from my backyard and just do circles around the park, but that's not the same thing. And I'm just finding that it's very frustrating that signs went up. I don't know where these other streets are. There's no map. And I have been at the park when the fire trucks were there to rescue somebody at the top of the mountain. The cars were parked there. They had no problem getting there, getting up through the route into the mountain. And yes, Glendenning is beautiful. And it's a few cars at certain times of the day. I think is a better streetscape than 19 no parking signs that they're going to look at for the rest of their lives. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. I'd like to invite the next speaker, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Florence Davis. I don't like to admit it, but I have lived in the Mount Douglas area for over 70 years. And Mount Douglas Park is quite a passionate place for my two brothers and I. And my brothers, both brothers and I, feel very strongly that we need some parking spaces at the end of Glendenning. The entrance to Glendenning Park, or Mount Douglas Park, has always been the best place for us when we were young to ride our horses up Glendenning and through the park. Sometimes we come home different ways, but it was Glendenning. So we feel quite strongly that there should be more parking. It doesn't seem that there's trees to be disturbed too much at the end of Glendenning to afford a few more parking spaces.
Thank you, Florence. I'd like to invite the next speaker, please. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor, and Council. My name is Berit Turner, and I walk my dog, or dogs. At one time or another, I have had two. I do it twice a day, and I'm a fairly fit, I have to admit, 80-year-old. And sometimes I ride my horse up to Antalya as well. I love Mount Doug. It is a beautiful park, and Glendenning is a lovely road. But we have to get there. And we have heard so many people speak this evening. Some people have talked about disabilities or mobility problems, others about children and so on. All these things are important. And I don't want Glendenning to be changed. I don't want trees to be cut. But I do want a few more parking spots. And somehow or other, the whole issue of parking has become has almost got out of hand, and people have become polarized. People who are nice people, as somebody said, yes, we all are, I suppose, give or take. but we all want, in a sense, we all want the same thing. So surely we should be able to come to some sort of a compromise without destroying any natural beauty or without depriving residents of parking spots of being able to get out. I have seen in all these years, and it's 15 plus years that I've been walking twice a day in the park, I have never seen a fire engine. I have seen search and rescue vans. I have seen garbage disposal trucks, and I have seen other service vehicles. But there has never been a problem. Nobody has ever had a difficulty parking or moving, turning around. And even now, I find that it is easy enough to turn around at the top of Glendenning. But for some people, and I did notice it when I was a little immobilized earlier on this summer, that it was hard to walk uphill and particularly to walk downhill. So it is important that one should be able to park closer to the park and at the end of Glendenning. So if we can just have a few more parking spaces, and it was a little offensive to have all these no parking signs coming up out of the blue without any consultation. And I don't see, there has been some erosion, yes, of the driveway, but not so much that it can't be either repaired or perhaps even ignored. So it seems to me that such a petty matter as this parking has become, is very small in the great scheme of things. Surely a compromise can be achieved which would dispel the anxiety the residents suffer when traffic on a public road, protect the trees, and provide additional parking for park users. But certainly not another 600 cars or whatever is on the definition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite the next speaker, please. Calling a second time for the next speaker. Take your time. Calling a third time for the next speaker, please. Okay, seeing none, I'd like to close this part of the presentation and turn it over to council. I did see the mayor first.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'll just start with a motion and then see if it's seconded, and then I'll lead into an explanation of why I think this motion is necessary. So I'd like to motion that Council ask staff for a report for options to address the parking issues on Glendenning Road.
Second.
I would like to speak to it if I can. So obviously it's a very difficult issue. It's not very often that we have a packed house like this. And when it is packed like this and we have so many people from the area and the surrounding area coming to speak, it really challenges us as decision makers on how to address issues like that. I have to think whether or not myself and as council we have enough information to make a decision. Certainly the needs of the residents have to be listened to. Saanich is blessed with nature. It's undeniable. It's what makes it such a great place to live. Given that, we have to provide access to this nature, and the access has to be afforded to people, whether they're walking, cycling, sometimes access by car, whether they bring animals with them, whether they have mobility issues or they have disability issues and so forth. When I went to the park one time, I was greeted by a cancer survivor that came into the park, and that particular access to the park was very special to this person because they'd walked this road every single day, had survived the cancer, and therefore it has symbolic meaning to them as well, and had a healing function. And this is something that I hadn't thought about as I was coming to the park myself for the first time in a long while to re-experience it. In this report on visioning, that we will ask staff to generate options for increased parking access to Glendenning Trail. I don't quite know what that means yet, if it means incorporating more parking spaces at the end, or providing better access or better signage, and so forth. I vision that this report will also deal with the restoration of the trail along Glendenning, the so-called bridle trail that has been damaged towards the end. Options for increased traffic mitigation on all access roads to the park. I think that's something that needs to be looked at as well. I don't think we have time with this pressing issue to generate a full master plan for the park. I think a good start would be dealing with the parking issues and the access issues. And finally, to increase trail access for people with disabilities. This is a very popular, it's a very unique access, and somehow we have to find an equitable solution for multiple access that addresses the nature of the street, the heritage aspect of the street, the trees on the street, the residents and their needs on the street, so they can live quiet and peaceful lives, and to be able to provide access to this park that has been available to people, as people came up to talk and said for decades. For decades, people have been using this road, and we now find ourselves, I don't think in much of a different position, that we've always had difficulty with finding spots at the end. But once the signs went up, it dramatically changed the access to this area. And I think as a council, we should have had this change go through the Parks and Trails Committee. I said that before at the previous meeting. We needed to do a better job on consultation with this, but none of that matters anymore. We're now at the point where we've heard from the public, and we need to find an equitable solution that meets the needs of the majority of the people that are living near and accessing this park. So based on that, I put forward that motion to generate the options and the ideas that we can share as a community to look at and find the best solution to this problem. Thank you.
Councillor Devlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to support this motion as it is currently articulated because I think it is far too narrow.